come to a couple of questions from listeners. Asif has asked, would the two new MHKs say what they think of people who avoid paying national insurance contributions by just taking a dividend when running a small company? Mrs. Christian, are you able to inform us on that?
I'm probably a good person to answer that question. So obviously, through COVID, I obviously saw a lot of that scenario, and it became apparent that there are a lot of small businesses that are doing that. So in my opinion, this is a decision that they are obviously legally allowed to take. They can do that. That's they haven't done anything wrong. But obviously what it's left is it's left them exposed, because in a scenario that like COVID, it's left them exposed that they were unable to get support from the government. But through lobbying and during COVID, I managed to get that overturned so that they were able to get some support. One of the things that I think that we need to do as a government, and this could be very much so that would bring in revenue to the government, immediate revenue, is we definitely need to be more proactive, going out to self-employed people and small businesses about the benefits of paying their national insurance and obviously different types of tax, whether it be it's just so absolutely key, because it helps them in terms of their pensions in the future. And obviously if something like this was to happen again, the fact that they've invested obviously in the tax and national insurance means that they can reap the benefit of the support from the government. Personally, obviously I'm a small business. People ask, I've often been asked at what scenario I take. Do I do a dividend and things like that? So I don't take a dividend. I actually haven't taken a salary. Anything that I've ever made in terms of profit has gone back into my business. I pay my staff and obviously pay their tax and national insurance as well. And that's how I've run my business. It's not been hard. It's not been easy running a business on the island. The economy before COVID was not great, and lots of businesses struggled and are struggling. And we need to. That's why we need to put an emphasis on absolutely supporting and getting the economy going, getting people to spend local, keeping that message going. It's so crucial. So it isn't easy running a business on the island. It really isn't. And I've been going for 7 years now, and I've spoken to many small businesses. And actually, if we didn't have these small businesses and we didn't have these self-employed people, which make up 70% of our economy, there would be far greater people on collecting, and on the dole, etc. So thank goodness we have these people going out there every day and working really hard. And that's truly admirable that we have that in our society.
You've spoken about some of your work with local companies throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, which objectively, I presume, played a big part in your success in the election. Do you think there should be any rule changes from the top to address some of these things, or is it more about education outreach, perhaps with business owners?
It's education outreach. It's being able to, there's I think from my personal perspective of being on the other side, you feel like you're doing something wrong if you haven't paid your national insurance. You feel like you're getting behind, and I know what that's like personally, and I know what that's like as a struggle, because people are, from struggling with poverty on the island, and that's really tough. So it's about reaching out to those people. It's about saying to them, you've done nothing wrong. You just need to get caught up to date. We need to be able to help you to do that. Let's come up with a plan on what we can do that's going to work for you. And then that means your pension, explaining to them, because lots of these businesses are run by young people that are not thinking about pensions in the future. So it's really important we make it available for them to be educated. And I don't think right now, from my own personal experience, that it is very easy to understand. So making it a bit clearer. And that was one of the things that I championed during COVID, was working with businesses and making the support clearer for people and explaining it and understanding. We're not accountants, we're not lawyers, we're not these kind of people. We're hardworking people that need to just have things explained to us a little bit easier. And so that's what I really focused on, and hope that I can be that person that people can still come to and ask for advice in terms of the national insurance and tax as well, so that we can get more revenue back and get people back on their feet.
From the private sector to the public sector, this is a point from an anonymous listener. Nothing about a reform of government to reduce the ridiculous wage and pension bill, the real elephant in the room. Do you have a view about that?
Well, yeah, obviously the public sector pensions are a very hot topic, and they were certainly a topic that was put to me on the doorstep during the campaign. I think the big issue about it is that those who've been at the coalface, the likes of the nurses, the teachers, the ancillary workers and the DOI, etc., who pro rata have paid in a lot more, feel as if they're not getting their just return. Now with the government unified scheme, I feel that the issue's probably been kicked down the road into the next Parliament, because I think it's due for review, I think, in 2022. But the unfortunate thing about it is that a lot of high-ranking civil servants, and MHKs for that matter, who have paid nowhere near the amount that they probably should have been paying, still expect to ride high on the hog, and I don't feel that it's justifiable in that case.
I agree, and I think we've got quite a lot to reform in terms of that, and how we go forward. It's going to be one of the particular subjects that I want to get heavily into, and getting more reform for that and making it a more fairer system. It's actually a term I've used, the elephant in the room. We've got to talk about this, and we've got to get better ideas on how to make this right and much fairer system.
I mean, we've both come from the private sector, so I mean, I had my old British Regional Airlines pension, which was what used to be referred to as a final salary pension, and that was stopped several years back because the company declared that it just wasn't sustainable, and it's as simple as that. So in the private sector, that's very much been the case over the last few years, and I feel looking into the future that similar sort of medicine is going to have to be given to the public sector sooner or later.
Well, thank you to that listener for that comment. Dewan has also been in touch. He said, I'd love to know what perceptions the MHKs had before they ran as candidates that changed over the course of their campaign.
So if I'll go first, Paul. So I think when I first started the campaign, my perception obviously was unknown, and most people do have a very unknown idea. I tried to liaise with as many ex-MHKs or current MHKs as possible to ask them their opinions and what it would be like. One of the advice that I majorly got was about social media, and to try not to take that personally. And I think I would like to say that if there's anybody thinking about going forward for this next year, please, my door is open. Come and see me, and I will tell you what it's like, and tell you what the social media is like, and what to do, and how to rise above that side of it, and really just focus on the job, focus on knocking on doors, focus on your constituents, and that is primarily the most important thing. And yes, obviously doing some social media campaign does help, but it is, and we said at the beginning of this programme, it's the door knocking that means the most important thing. So in terms of change now, we've been in how many hours now? I don't know. I'm not sure. So we've got a lot to learn very, very quickly. I think Paul and I got delivered literally the next morning piles of work that we need to read before the next Tynwald sitting, and before our induction starts on Tuesday. And that to me, just I'm more humbled, and even more so when I receive those, because it makes it just such an important job. I realise how important that is, and what people are believing in us, and what we've got to do. Yeah, like
Claire said, obviously you seek advice from various people and some sitting MHKs. It was very heartening that several of them actually wrote to me when I declared, to offer their support and their guidance and any advice, which I may wish to have chosen to ask of them. I feel I found the campaign a very enriching and fulfilling experience personally. Meeting so many people, listening to their concerns, their fears, or just having just a good chat over a cup of tea. I mean, going back to the knocking on the doors and that, sometimes you're meeting members of our older generation who haven't seen anybody all day. Maybe you and the postman are the only people that they get the chance to speak to. So it's vital that side of campaigning isn't abandoned in the rush to embrace social media, because they're the real people in the constituency, and it's lovely to get out and to meet people like that.